Alright folks, today I am burning some odds and ends to make charcoal, which will eventually become biochar. This is my charcoal pile. Height's always hard to tell, but about a foot deep. It used to be a lot bigger, but when I was building out my garden beds, I used a lot of it. So I obviously have water in case, it's right next to my pavilion, so where all my wood's stored. So the fear of spreading is always there, and also if it doesn't spread, which hopefully it doesn't, it just rained actually this morning, I have the water to put the fire out. So this is just one of those little outdoor like porch kind of campfire rings set up, so no holes in it, so I could fill it to the brim with water once I'm done burning, and then I just use a shovel to kind of mix it up, make sure there's no hot spots that'll turn it to ash. Because what you want to do, this isn't the most effective or efficient method, but it's definitely good. I used to do a ditch method out in my field. I just dug a large narrow ditch, so you lie all the sticks parallel with each other, so you get a lot of charcoal and not much ash. It's more efficient, but it's a lot more of a hassle. So I just use this, a little bit of wind, and it's actually coming from the west, so it's blowing the smoke towards the pavilion, tractor, gas, wood. Not great. So I put up a little wind block just to help it, and it's, the wind's kind of blowing from the south now, but which is coming towards me, but it is doing a good enough job. So what you want to make sure you're doing to make the optimal charcoal is when you see a spot of ash. So I just started this a little bit ago, so I'm still kind of in the heating phase. When you see some ash starting to form on like an actual burnt piece, like there's obviously some ash forming on that piece of wood, but there's still a lot of wood left. But once you get like an ash pile, like what's actually down deep in there, you just got to add wood to it to cut the combustion off from that piece of charcoal and focus it on the wood. So you want it to be kind of a low flame, relatively slow burn, and I've filled this entire thing up in an evening. But what's good about this is I have large, cut a tree down, you get large pieces, split those, put them in your real cold winter long storage stacks. You get medium pieces. So I have these in separate piles, just rounds, not like the quartered or anything, full rounds, because it's a little more slipping and sliding because of just the shape. So I have that. I'm depending on how much I get, I have a bunch of these short but high quality wood. I might have to actually start burning these for charcoal because you can pile it, but it's pretty impossible to stack. And then you have the little pieces. I don't have too many around because I've already chipped it all, but my chipper does about 3.5 inch. So anything from that down, I chip to make wood chips for bedding. And then you just have a thing that doesn't fit into, oh crap. My chickens are bothering the young ones. I'll be back. So what you're left with is just random pieces of like a bunch of elbows, big knots. You know, I cut these out so I can get good stackable piece, but then you're left with these. Or when you cut down a tree and you have a hard angle, just things that you could obviously burn in your house, but like I was saying about these pieces over here, is storing it is rather challenging. And the big thing is you have to season it. So this tree right here, I cut down, I don't know, probably 3 months ago, and it was green. So it was also like a sumac, so it's like crap wood to begin with, and it's also kind of damp. So, and you can't store it. You can throw it in the woods, and then that'll grow, you know, mushrooms and get a bunch of worms and bugs under it. But I'd rather take time also to help prevent forest fires, burn it in small batches, create charcoal, which then I could put in my garden, make biochar, and make black earth essentially. And for the rest of my life and further generations, I will have improved this land by improving the capability of storing nutrients in the soil. And this land really needs it. It's a lot of clay, a lot of overgrazing and runoff issues. So I'm trying to improve the water and nutrient holding ability in the land, like every square inch of it. I'm also over by those pines, I have dug a small, super small, hand dug it, so a super small little pond, if you could even call that. It's pretty much a puddle. And then around the field behind the house, I've dug a trench, and next summer is supposed to be warm, so I'm gonna dig another, because there's a fence running along there. I'm gonna dig another small water retention pond, and I dug 2 even smaller holes where I was burning for charcoal before, because when I bought the property, there was a large burn pile out there, which I burned some of it, but most of it I just chipped. But I was burning some in those ditches, and then realized this method's a whole lot easier. You don't have to cut everything to a certain size. It's above the ground. You can move. I just dump water in there, and then I carry the whole fireplace essentially to my pile, which I should wait at least 24 hours completely submerged in water before you add it to your pile, or you will eventually, if you do it enough, make a mistake, leave an ember, and you'll burn down your entire stock. So I know there's a lot of people that think, why would you burn this? You know, look at all that smoke. Well, I burn wood in my house, and that heats my home. So that's an obvious benefit, and I make a bunch of ash doing that, and some charcoal, but mainly ash, which I can apply to my gardens, give it to the chickens, like a dust bath, and I'm not burning fossil fuels at a power plant or anything. It's all local. I get the trees from my forest, which are almost all of them to this point have been dead or dying, and I burn them in my home. So I'm reducing the forest fire potential and heating my home and supplying the land with all the nutrient ash. So it's just trying to keep the carbon cycle as tight as possible. That's the main goal of any kind of regenerative farm. It's closing that carbon cycle and keeping it tight. So I only have 8 acres, so I can't do everything. You know, I still have to buy grain for the chickens and grain and hay for the sheep, especially in the winter. For the meat birds, they obviously take a lot. My egg layers, it's a lot of chicken scrap, but and just grass because they're free ranged, a lot of bugs. But they do get some grain supplement, especially like I said in the winter. They need it, but I give them corn, just a little extra carbs to keep them warm. That's how I make my charcoal. As you can see, it's starting to burn down, so I'm gonna add some more. It is beneficial to have all the same size wood, and you know, the smaller the better, but because I'm making wood chips, I get quite a bit of larger pieces, and I chip a lot of the bark that falls off like this. When I'm splitting all the bark, I try to get off the bark if I can. I'll get the wood dryer. So while I'm burning, I'll just throw all that bark from all around my pavilion is kind of my wood processing plant. So there's a bunch of bark and sticks and twigs. I could put it in my chip pile if I'm chipping, or I could put it in the fire when I'm burning. The only last little helpful tip I'll give you is get good gloves. These are cheap welding gloves, because if you're over here, start getting a good ash pile, throw a log on, and it rolls out of the fire, you can just throw some water on it. You can grab your gloves, throw it back in. There's a lot of options, but always have, especially when this gets really hot and you're adding wood, you want to be a little more strategic than just chucking it in and making a bunch of embers up in the air. Yeah, good quality leather, heat resistant gloves. I've even dipped them in the water sometimes to make sure I don't burn them up, but the leather, once you get leather wet and then it dries, they can get kind of crispy. So I'll leave you with that, and I remember once I get this going to peak performance, I'll show you that as well. Just added a couple more sticks to the fire. See that? Pointer stick real quick. So what you're looking for, something like this chunk right here. That's complete, burned out. It's just the carbon shell now. Now you have to cover that up with more fuel, or it will just turn to ash, and that's not what you're looking for. So, especially around the rim, I've found it's good to keep some chunks about this size or some bark handy just to throw on these patches while this all burns out. Like I said, it's not the most efficient method, but it is a good enough method for my size and scale and needs. I was watching a couple weeks back Red Tool House, and there's a lady, Kelpie Wilson, who has big circular fixtures that you can break them down and move them easily. It seems like a really cool idea. It's a little on the expensive side, but they are massive. They're meant for like if you're, you know, building a house or something, you cut a bunch of trees down. So if she could maybe make a homesteader size, maybe I'd look into it. But at that point, it's pretty much just like, you know, a circular bed you can get at Tractor Supply. You just gotta burn off the galvanization before you actually produce biochar that you put in your garden. And previously, I actually made a little slip up. I said that I hadn't cut any green wood yet, and then I said that this tree over here, this sumac, I had cut and it was green. What I meant is none of this wood was green. It's all the large trees I've cut have been all standing dead or recently fallen dead. Or I had one that was dying, pretty much dead, but still had a little bit of green around the root ball. This also is at least 80% standing dead. My woods are in a pretty steep, go down to a pretty steep ravine, so a lot of the root system just can't really hold up to it, so they get us to a certain size and they just die. Also ants, woodpeckers, grubs, things like that. So just wanted to clear that up. Thought I had another point to make. Still getting a good burn over here. Still making that charcoal. And obviously I'm cutting some wood as well. Not just watching this burn. Meant to mention earlier, this is my woods, as I keep showing. You can actually see that car maybe. Not sure if it shows up on camera. But there's a road that runs along, pretty much right along my woods. And the reason why I'm starting to cut a few, I'm still doing mainly cleaning, but I'm starting to cut a few live trees in my woods is I'm going to, this is my driveway, runs along there, and then square, and there's the road. I'm going to, oh, and I have electrical lines down there. So I'm going to fence all that in along my driveway, along the road, and probably down the center of the, I don't know if that's actually legal, but I'll have to look into that. I'm going to try to fence off along the electrical that's above ground, but that's a clearing, and they come by and they trim the trees. So hopefully, if I can do it legally, I'll run it down the center of that, so when they trim the trees, it doesn't crush the fence. But I'll have to look into that. But yeah, I'd like to make this into another paddock and have it more like a savanna. There's almost zero grass in there currently. There's some bushes and like raspberry bushes and some bushes and holly, but there's pretty much zero grass. So I'm trying to thin out the canopy, get some grass in there, fence it in, and then start using it for the sheep. And it'll be good in the heat of the summer. Could put them back in there, get a little bit more shade than the rest of my paddocks. Like you can see right here, there's trees around, and obviously around the fence line there's trees, but that's the goal. Really start getting some more some good topsoil in there, as opposed to just have leaf litter, and then when it rains hard, It runs all the leaves down to the bottom and just has terrible topsoil on the high parts. So that's the goal. Not sure how long it'll take. It's quite dense. A lot of, 2-inch diameter trees. But I'm gonna keep hacking away at it, and the good thing is all those small trees I can chip, and all the larger trees I can burn for heat or biochar. So that's the goal. There it is the next day. What I do is, there's obviously going to be some good wood left, so you just knock those out of the fire. Dump all your water into the pit. The fire. It was freezing last night, so we'll see if there's still liquid. As you can see, got lots of good charcoal. Hopefully shortly, quality biochar in my garden. And I'll just save those for next time I do it. So now I can't just pick this up because it's way too heavy. I got a bucket with some holes in it. I'll get the water out. Make sure there's no more embers that will melt or burn your bucket, especially if it's a decent quality bucket. This one's clearly pretty old. But bucket brigaded over there, and then you're ready to start the process over again.